Hi, Kevin Wright back again with another property finance tip. This week we're talking lease options and are they all they're cracked up to be? Want to find out if they are? Keep watching. Lease options, big thing in property, aren't they? A lot of people doing lease options or trying to do lease options. Are they as simple as perhaps you're led to believe? Let's examine it. Now, the thing with lease options is they've been around in commercial property for just decades. And commercial property owners, a bit more savvy, they're business people in one respect or another, so they're more likely to understand lease options. When you come to residential property, different ball game, I think. Now, particularly if you're talking to the owner of the property that wants to sell it, because they're just ordinary Joes, aren't they? Now, when you're talking to homeowners, I think there's a big elephant in the room with lease options. And what is it? In most cases, they haven't got the foggiest idea what you're talking about. So if you're going to buy a property, it's pretty simple. You don't have to explain to someone the process of buying their property. Look, I'm going to make you an offer, you'll accept it, we'll get the preamble stuff done, we'll exchange contracts, and then shortly after that, I buy your property. Do you have to explain that to people? No. Everyone knows how you buy and sell a property. Not the same with lease options though, because you have to explain to the seller how a lease option is going to work. The fact that you're going to control the property, but you're not going to buy it for several years down the line, in some cases. It's quite common to have a 5 or 10 year lease option. So when you're talking about lease options to homeowners, you've got an extra barrier to climb over to get them to understand what it is you're actually proposing first. Now, I'm not saying lease options don't work, because there are occasions when they work very well. But the point is, you've got to explain to people, in most cases, what a lease option is. And some of them won't buy into it. Because they haven't heard of it, because it's unfamiliar, they're going to say, oh, no, this doesn't look for me. So the point here is that realise that if you're going to be talking lease options, you've got to do a bit more explaining, or sometimes a lot more explaining, before someone's on board, before a seller is on board with what you're trying to propose to them. But if they go along with you, all well and good. Here's another point with lease options. When you actually buy the property, it's usually some years down the line. 5 years, 10 years. Now, if it's worked out for you in the way that you want, and the way that you're trying to make it work is that the market value has risen over the years since you started the lease option, where you agreed a purchase price and you've been controlling the property ever since, then what you're now trying to do is to buy a property that, let's say, was worth 100, you agreed it 100 some years ago, but it's now worth 150. That's a great deal for you. The danger here is it may not seem such a great deal for the owner of the property now, because what they see is they still own this property and they've agreed and they've got a contract to sell it to you for 100, but they've probably sussed out that it's now worth 150. And they're seeing that you're making 50 grand out of their property that they own, even though they've let you control it for the last few years. Now, human nature wouldn't be human nature if they started to get pretty resentful at the fact that you're making that money out of their property, even though you've taken the headache away from running that property for the last few years. What's the danger here? The danger is the seller, the owner, could start trying to wriggle out of the contract. And possibly you may be forced to go to court to enforce that contract. And here's where it could get a bit murky, because a lease option is not as legally solid as, let's say, an exchange of contracts. So if you were doing a delayed completion where you'd exchange contracts several years before and now you're looking to complete, you're on a stronger wicket. Now, I'm no solicitor, but you need to take legal guidance on this. So what I'm saying here is that it's fine setting up lease options that you're going to exercise years into the future. But if it comes to having to go to court to defend your right to buy that property at the £100,000, just to use the example we were talking about, it's less clear whether you're going to get a court to decide in your favour. And I said before, this is not to say that lease options don't work or they can't work. Clearly they can work well in certain circumstances, but it might just not be as plain sailing as you think it's going to be. Check out one of my other videos here where I explain why it's not possible to go straight from a lease option to a mortgage because of the historic link you've got with the seller, with the owner, and mortgage lenders don't like that. There is a resolution. Watch the video here to get the answers. So that's me done for this week. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the little thing there and I'll see you next week. Oh, before you go, I might have one thing for you here. So hang around. If you enjoyed watching this video, did you know every Monday morning at 8:30 I do a live Facebook Q&A. So if you want to start the week with checking out some answers to your property finance questions, click the link here.